Hello, my Built for Thousand Nation. How's everyone doing today? Hopefully, everyone's having a great day. If not, I hope it gets better from here. We are back with another That chapter. This one is titled Killer Husband Lies to Police at Horrifying Crime Scene. I'm excited to get in today's video. Hopefully, you guys are excited as I am. If you are, please go ahead, turn them lights down low, put on something comfy, couple, something special. Let's get traumatized. Definitely traumatized.
Hey you, and welcome. My name is Mike, and in this old video, it's one of them, well, shucks, wherein things just going so swell type situations. Well, I mean, they would be right if it wasn't just like a little secret and a lot of murder of the very worst kind, but sure, if there wasn't, would I be telling it? You know the drill yourself, big dog. What happened back in 2012, a decade and a half ago at this point? Yeah, I feel sick too. It was a horror show, and what followed was a shit show.
Know what you're trying to do.
Why you walked off? Go get him now.
Before we get into it, please subscribe to see new videos every single week. Now, let's give it a go.
Just give it a go. Seth Techel. Techel?
Agency.
He's
That's what
angry
people
at that
in this
fence.
story had, but I mean, it's also where this story was set. So, that's a tiny little town in Wapello County, Iowa. And what can I say about it? Absolutely nothing. So let's get to the folk who lived there. In May 2012, to everybody who knew them and also like the world looking in, which I guess is us, Seth and Lisa Techel seemed to have the world at their feet. The
Techel.
couple had tied the knot less than a year earlier, after 7 entire years together, and they were now living in a trailer on a plot of land given to the couple by Seth's dad, Big Doug, while the couple were planning to build themselves a permanent family home. Lisa Techel, she worked alongside her own father, Todd Caldwell, himself a deputy with the sheriff's office. By the way, Lisa's middle name was Marie, and her younger sister's name was Presley. So her dad? Big Beatles fan, am I right? I'm never gonna stop. First, Lisa Techel was a reserve deputy, then a jailer. Seth Techel too, he long held ambitions of joining the sheriff's department. And after a stint as a reserve fireman, he was finally looking forward to joining his wife and father-in-law as a jailer, but at the moment he was working in the Job Corps. So a very happy, big family. Seth and Lisa, they had, been childhood sweethearts before eventually, marrying, and the whole family, the entire two families, like the Caldwell family and the Techel family, they were very much intertwined. For example, Lisa Techel, big bowler, mad for it, absolutely loved it. Seth Techel's dad, Doug, didn't he just own the local bowling alley? And now Seth was
Oh,
planning
yeah.
on working with Lisa's family, for the sheriff's department. So you got these two childhood sweethearts were in each other's orbit from a very young age, and when Seth finally, went to Todd Caldwell, Lisa's dad, asking for permission, for her hand in marriage, they were only too happy. They already viewed Seth as their own son. So it was,
That's cool.
they were happy as a pig in shite, basically, when he asked, to cut a long story short.
There's all smiling
To
like
top it all
possums
off,
eating
Lisa was
shit.
4 months pregnant with the couple's first child. They even had a name already and picked out, Zoe Marie. But here comes the fall. Shortly after 5 a.m., May 26th, 2012, Seth Techel made this 911 call.
We're getting 911, sir. She's not breathing. Does she have any medical problems? She's been shot. I was in a shot getting ready for work and I heard a gunshot. And I came running out and she was shot in the side and
Damn.
A Wapello County Sheriff's deputy was first on the scene, finding Seth topless, only wearing a pair of loose-fitting cargo shorts. He was frantic and confused. The deputy, in fact, knew Seth and tried to calm him and explain what had happened. Between very deep breaths, Seth told him Lisa had been shot. Seth said he had been in the shower, getting ready for another day on the rig, when he heard a gunshot coming from inside his own house. Seth first went to grab one of his own gun because he was gonna blow away whoever was shooting inside his house, but this mysterious shooter was gone, and it was only when he returned back in after chasing the invisible man around that he found his wife in bed, and she was very bloody.
We'll figure it out, bud. I just fell off. We'll figure it out.
When the deputy went inside, he found the house empty except for Lisa. She was laid on the bed, surrounded by blood. As I said, a lot of blood. Lisa had been asleep when she'd been shot.
Was she
It
still
appeared
pregnant?
From Seth's story that someone had broken in and shot her dead while she was asleep. Shot her from only a few feet away with a 12-gauge shotgun.
Was she still
Despite
pregnant?
the best efforts of the responding paramedics, deputies, even her own father, a deputy himself, 23-year-old Lisa Techel had lost too much blood and suffered too much damage to even make it to the hospital. After returning from inside the house, Todd Caldwell, he was caught on dashcam.
Go get him. Go get him. Now.
Who's him? The killer? Well, here, listen to this, hotshot. Todd actually had someone much more specific to him in mind. The him in question was the Techel's neighbor, Brian Tate. See, Brian Tate and Seth Techel, neighbors living in this middle of nowhere place in Iowa, they've been having a bit of a, argy-bargy, bit of a dispute lately. And so, when Lisa Techel ends up shot dead in her own bed, who
First
had they
person
just
to
been
blame.
fighting with? Big B, Brian Tate. See, the whole thing had started when Seth had been driving along and he found a deer carcass in the middle of the road. And so he was like, well, can't just leave this shit lying around. He dragged the deer carcass off the road, as you would. I mean, maybe you would. But the thing is, he left the deer carcass on his neighbor's property, Brian Tate's property. So Brian comes out of his house then one day, sees a dead deer, he's like, I'm not having this. Grabs the deer, knows that Seth had left it there, puts the deer back onto Seth's land. Seth then promptly put it back into Brian's land. Nobody wants a dead deer. I mean, there's probably some good meat there, folks. Let's hold your horses. But just like that, war was on, folks.
Oh my god.
From then on, the neighbors had apparently taken any opportunity to inconvenience each other. Eventually, Seth had even employed his friends to help mess with Brian. Only Brian Tate, slow-year-old, folks, not one to be messed with at all. He wouldn't have it. I wouldn't mess with him. See, Brian, it turned out, was not only a military veteran, he also had a very strong case of PTSD and paranoid schizophrenia. The feud between Seth and Brian Tate had escalated to the point of Brian calling the local sheriff's office. He'd finally had enough after someone, Seth and his pals, in Brian's opinion, they had dumped buckets of dog shite on his car, which, I mean, it's fair to have a problem with that, I suppose. And so the sheriff sent out a deputy to Brian Tate. Have a chat with him, see what's the crack. Only the deputy the sheriff sent out was Todd Caldwell, the person Brian Tate was having an argument with, his father-in-law. Brian Tate did not know this.
I can't forget the name. Seth Techel. Seth Techel. Yep. He's Techel. Techel? Yeah, his dad owns Champion Bowl. Okay. And they're good people. Well, they really are. If you can, let us deal with it. Well, what if I'm the one that's got to catch him?
The first time Deputy Caldwell visited Brian, he was alone. The second time he had a colleague with them, but both times went pretty much the same. Todd Caldwell would say he's a lunatic. Don't mess with him. He's a madman. He'd be there, he was like caressing his shotgun like it was his pet cat. He was having a great time. And he was just ranting and raving. He was calling the Techels terrorists. And so then, when Lisa ends up dead, Todd had just been to see him twice, and he had said some very mean, nasty folks things about old Lisa and Seth. Well, you can see why Todd would immediately assume it was Brian Tate, the next door neighbor who has a shotgun and is insane and has a problem with them both. And so, the same day of Lisa's death, deputies, listen, any excuse, folks, to get locked and loaded. They get up there with their long rifles, full-on body armor, SWAT team style gear, probably tanks too. They go beside Brian Tate's house and are ready to kick in the door. But unbeknownst to them, Brian Tate actually turned out to be a lovely fella. He, unarmed, said, "How is, lads? Come on in. What's going on next door? Hope they're all right." I was happy to talk very calmly, answer any questions the responding officers had.
There's been a death at the home behind here of a female. do a neighborhood canvas. Just try to talk to as many people as we can. Is that okay?
That's fine.
Okay.
You were such a calm, quiet guy until this vandalism started, and then you're just like a different person.
I was Mr. Nice Guy for a long time. It done me no good. People took advantage of me, so I'm kind of taking a different approach to life right now, being more serious and more not such a nice guy.
He explained he had been angry about the vandalism and harassment, but he was doing much better now. And in fairness, the Techels had started it by leaving a dead deer on his property and then buckets of shit on his car. So, Brian Tate gets a bit maligned in this story. But one of the other reasons he was now so calm was that he had just increased his dosage of antipsychotic medication about a week earlier, and he was now finally getting better sleep. Something his mother confirmed. She would say he was sleeping. Yeah, he slept like a log all the time, and at 5 a.m. he was certainly asleep at home. There's no way he was next door shooting some, a young mother as she slept. In fact, they actually ruled Brian Tate out relatively early, as in the official investigators and detectives did. The community, maybe not, and the Caldwells and the Techels, more definitely not. Almost as if the reports about Brian Tate by his enemy's father-in-law were blown way out of proportion, if you can believe that.
I'm trying to have a conversation with you,
I don't want to be yelled at either.
Well, I'm trying to have a conversation with you, and I don't understand why you walked off.
You're raising your voice now.
Stop right there, criminal scum!
But the actual investigators who had an actual job to do, they turned their attention to the only other person who was in the house when Lisa Techel was murdered. Just 8 hours on after Lisa's murder, Seth Techel was taken to the sheriff's office to go through what happened.
I turned the shower on. I was in there for more than 5 minutes, and I heard this loud noise, and I will be honest, I had every intention on shooting whoever it was. I don't see anybody. I don't hear nothing. I run back inside. I run into the bedroom, and I said, Lisa, are you okay? And she's not breathing. I kept doing it. I kept protecting. I was 7 feet away from her. Why can't they still be alive?
She was pregnant.
Why couldn't I have done something to protect the woman that I love?
One of the first topics covered, of course, how yourself and your wife, you have any enemies?
So she was still pregnant then, because he said they. He said they. What the fuck?
Anybody who might want to shoot you. And of course, Seth goes, you talk to your man next door. He's a madman. He's crazy. He's cuckoo bats. He's a lunatic. Of course, Seth didn't know. Yes, they had already talked to him, and he seemed like a perfectly nice guy.
Let's go with your...
Looks can be deceiving.
Hear that it was true.
Buddy.
I mean, is that fair to talk?
That's still what I got.
What do you think this person's intent was?
I don't know. You have to be a complete jackass to walk into somebody's house and shoot.
Who was the first person that came at your mind?
Tate, like my crazy-ass neighbor who thinks that we're terrorists.
After just a couple of hours of interrogation, though, things kind of
that would be
changed
fair.
just a little bit. See, the detective interviewing Seth received, a clackety-clackety text, and it's like one of those things where most of the time, if you're being interviewed by a detective, they'll only ask you questions they already know the answer to. At least it's fair to assume that they do.
Yeah.
Seth did not make that assumption. Which, as well, if he's somebody who wants to work in law enforcement, he was not a bright spark.
Currently, I work out at the Job Corps at security, but actually next month I'm coming to work here in jail.
See, unknown to Seth was that a friend of his had actually arrived that morning to collect a puppy that Seth had been watching. And if the friend, though, arrives and there's millions of cops around and he has no idea what's going on. But this friend was happy to yap away with the police, give him a bit more, inside scoop of Seth, and he would say, well, guess what, you'll never get this. Seth has a burner phone. You guys should probably know that. He also just recently borrowed a shotgun from another friend. Can't see it here. Wonder what that's about. And all the while, Seth is telling the detective one thing. His friends are telling deputies something else. Lisa's own father is banging on the door, telling Seth to get out and to get a lawyer and don't talk to the detectives. It was then Seth said, this probably has nothing to do with anything, but, I may as well tell you.
That's fine. I know I'm obviously probably number one right now.
Let's talk about people that are in your lives and Lisa's lives. Was there any extra marital affairs?
Enter a new character, Seth's co-worker at Job Corps where he was currently working, Rachel McFarland. At first, Seth claimed nothing had really happened between the two. Then Seth revised his story and said, okay, maybe we swapped some risque texts. Then maybe I sent her a picture of my dick or something like that. Alright, then he'd given her a hug. Fine. Okay, they kissed. But that was it. Honest to God, lads. I'm telling the truth now. When before I said I was telling the truth and I was lying, that was lying. But now I'm telling the truth. You can trust me.
You know, work that I was texting, but I wasn't seeing her. It wasn't anything. It was just, hey, how was your day type of thing.
Would it be considered sexting?
No, none of that.
What are you wearing?
No, it wasn't any of that.
We have to be honest about her, okay? Because is there anything that you haven't told us yet?
No. And it's going to end up the way I just told you.
Rachel's DNA won't be on your clothes or...
I never had sex with her. No, nothing oral, nothing like that. I gave her hugs, and I kissed her.
Eventually, Seth admitted that Rachel McFarland, she might somehow be under the impression that I'm actually going to leave my wife. She may be under that impression. I don't know why Rachel would be under the impression I'm going to leave, you know, my young, heavily pregnant wife. Where did she get that idea? Women, what? Okay, well, maybe I told her I was actually going to leave Lisa for her, but it was a joke. Duh. I was just telling Rachel I was going to leave Lisa for the attention because, you know what, lads love attention. Anything for her.
Here's the deal, okay? Facts, right now, these case facts, show us you're responsible for killing your wife.
No. No. I can't kill my wife. I can't do it. What facts do you have that I killed her?
Listen, I've seen Rachel. Okay? I know what guys see when they see her. Because I do the same thing. Okay?
I'm telling you, if I wanted to be with Rachel, I would get a divorce. I would not kill my wife over something that small. You know what? Right now, I guess I don't give a what happens to me, okay? I know what happened. I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to get me upset, and it's working. Congratulations. I can't control what other people see or think they see.
Right.
I'm telling you that right now, I have to bury my wife and kid, my unborn kid, okay? Whoever did this is going to pay.
Meanwhile, the investigation continued along at speed. Once daylight had hit the scene, a proper search had started. The list of items the officers wanted to find was a short one. That missing camo Mossberg model 512 gauge shotgun was certainly top of the list. A weapon that Seth had borrowed from a friend, mysteriously borrowed from a friend, and now was nowhere to be found. But the search had barely begun when an agent shouted out. They had it! Just a short walk from the trailer, hidden in the tree line, was the shotgun. And later, it would be confirmed by ballistics as the gun that had fired the shell that killed Lisa. The discovery of the gun was the biggest one ever, and it pointed the finger squarely at Seth Techel. So at this point, if you're assuming Seth pulled the trigger and then he just ran to, I'll throw it in the bushes right outside my house. He really is nuts. He's dumb as shit. He's dumb as the shit he poured in Brian Tate's car. 7 months after the couple had married, it was Lisa's own funeral. Once the ceremony had ended, and only the two, now divided families were left, Seth was approached by the same deputy who'd been first on the scene that night, and now he was asking him to join them outside. Once Seth Techel did, he was read his rights and placed in cuffs. The cuffs that Seth Techel was placed in were Lisa's own handcuffs from the jail.
The district courtroom at the Wapello County Courthouse was packed Thursday morning as family members, friends, and members of the media came to hear opening arguments in the trial of Seth Techel. The state presented their arguments to the jury in under an hour, focusing more on Seth's relationships with his co-worker at Job Corps and how events in that relationship led up to the death of Lisa Techel and her unborn child. On the other side, the defense took most of the morning not to talk about Seth's relationships, but rather talk more about the scene of the crime and how the crime was investigated by the Iowa Division of Criminal Investigation and also the Wapello County Sheriff's Office.
From the beginning of Seth Techel's murder trial, the defense focused almost entirely on Brian Tate. They did everything they could to throw him under the bus. And in the local community, people were still, talking about BT over there. Brian Tate, he's the one who did it. He clearly is. It's Seth? Sure, why would he be killing her? It's definitely him. The rumors were abounding, even though the police had cleared him relatively early. And an interesting observation was actually made by the prosecution regarding when Seth and his father, Doug Techel, first went back to the home after Lisa's murder, and Seth had been questioned, he finally gets a lawyer, and then Seth and his dad, they go back to the home, right? And apparently a person who was nearby witnessed Seth. What did Seth do as soon as he got out of the car? When they pull up, and it's his first time back in the house. He walks over to where the tree was for where he hid the feckin' shotgun, and he doesn't find it. Seth probably shot himself. The defense, though, would say, oh no, he didn't go over there because he was looking for the murder weapon, because he knew where it would be. No, he went over there because they'd spray painted like an X. The search investigators to say, oh, this is where it had been found. That's it, sure, easily explainable. That kind of tit for tat really kind of sums up, actually, the entire trial, with no definitive evidence to say who had done it. Rachel McFarland, Seth's mistress. Yeah, well, he feckin' wishes. Her testimony was particularly damning for Seth.
Started becoming more than just co-workers. It went from just normal conversations to flirtatious text messages. It became more sexual, asking me to send pictures. He started asking if, when he got a divorce from his wife, if I'd move in with him. And I said no.
Womp womp. She too would confirm the relationship was never sexual. Her texts to and from Seth were described as a, quote, countdown to murder, as they featured Seth's assurances that the two would soon be together, which I don't think she was even into.
I said no.
He even called her pet names like Bella and Mrs. Resuscitator. The second, Mrs. Resuscitator, was an in-joke between the couple, as Rachel and her co-workers had taken to call Seth Mr. Resuscitator, ironically, thanks to Seth's habit of bragging about saving so many lives when he had been a reserve fireman. That's the thing, though, he was never even,
not have penitentiary contact with Ovalvo.
But he would still kill his wife to be with her? Good gracious. Rachel also told the court about an incident earlier in the month leading up to the murder. When Rachel had mentioned seeing another co-worker,
that was great.
Seth seemed to react in a jealous manner. He then told Rachel just to, quote, give him 2 more weeks. When she asked what he meant by that, he repeated, just give him 2 more weeks. And no prizes for guessing what happened in 2 weeks. He killed his wife. Then, the evening before the murder, Seth messaged Rachel.
Mike, you cannot make me laugh when we are talking about something serious. This is why I have a special place in hell, my friend. You've got to quit doing that. My thing is, it wasn't just his wife. There was an unborn baby inside of her. Motherfucker killed 2 things. His wife and the future life of any child he could have had with her. That is disgusting. I hope the motherfucker gets forever.
Rachel saying, it's done. Rachel just assumed that meant he was leaving Lisa. And I suppose he was, just, very permanently leaving Lisa. The first trial, however, ended in a mistrial. It ended in a mistrial. The second trial would be very similar to the first. So similar, in fact, that the second trial also ended in a mistrial. Trial number 3 of Seth Techel for the murder of his wife actually did bring something new to the table. A brand new defense team along with a brand new argument. Rather than offer up Brian Tate as, the sacrificial boogeyman and that he was the real guy, they instead went with a different tact. This time the defense were saying the authorities' investigation of this was shite. They never even swabbed Seth's hands for gunshot residue the morning, when they arrived and they found him. But you also have to remember that, Seth was just conveniently having a shower when his wife was killed, so they might not have actually got anything off him anyway, because he completely scrubbed his body from head to toe. I mean, he plays around with dog shit, so he's probably a stinky bastard. And guess what? Can I shock you? Another surprise came when the defense revealed a revelation, right?
What?
Seth wasn't the only one with some secrets. Lisa Techel, she had a few secrets of her own. She had been having her own affair. And it wasn't just sending dick pics and hugging. It was in fact her colleague at the jail and her lover, Jason Tinnis, who would testify that he and Lisa had begun seeing each other before Seth and Lisa had gotten married, and had only stopped it a few weeks before her death. He also admitted that at one time he thought the baby she was pregnant with, sure, it may have been his. Now, it wasn't. The testing would reveal it was Seth's baby, but that's, pretty dodgy. So then they were like, well, maybe he did it. Regardless, the defense did their best to drag out the details of the affair, while in contrast, they did the complete opposite with Seth's own affair. The defense's cross-examination of Rachel McFarland this time, it lasted only 7 minutes. It was basically limited to clarifying that so Lisa was having an affair with a coworker, or had been having an affair, and it was very sexual in nature. Seth was, I suppose, kind of trying to have an affair with this woman, Rachel, but yeah, even she would say no, they never had sex. It was literally dick pics. So it was like, why would he murder his wife for a woman he wasn't even, banging? The defense used the police's failure to uncover Lisa's affair as another failure on behalf of the investigation. They also argued that it showed the investigation had solely focused on Seth from such an early stage that the police used tunnel vision on him. Of course, they failed to talk about, this time, about how previous defenses and the police had initially suspected Brian Tate. They also questioned why Jason Tinnis hadn't been suspected or questioned, even though Jason had a solid alibi for the time of the murder. And Jason's alibi was from the last person you would think would lie from him. The wife he was cheating on with. After just 4 hours of deliberation, the jury foreman came out with a verdict that was actually pretty shocking. And I'm not being sarcastic. It was a guilty verdict. Guilty on all counts.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Seth Andrew Techel, guilty of murder in the first degree.
Seth Techel sat still, barely moving, and stared directly at each of Lisa's family members as they spoke. He was asked by the judge if he had anything to say.
Not this time, Your Honor.
After 3 trials in 2 years, Lisa Techel's family heard the news. They've waited to hear.
Actually, this is the last time we have to see Seth Techel, and that's fine by me.
Guilty of murdering his wife, and the second count was of illegally terminating her pregnancy. If it had been a couple of weeks later, he would have been guilty of 2 counts of murder. Ultimately, it all came down to just one thing that kind of wraps up a lot of things. For Seth to be completely innocent, he would have to literally have the worst luck of all time. The next day, after he'd promised Rachel McFarland, his extramarital lover, that he was gonna leave his wife and be with her, his wife just happens to be murdered by the crazy neighbor next door. Not only that, but the crazy neighbor next door had gone to his house in the middle of the morning, unarmed, and then had somehow picked up the only gun that was loaded, and the only gun that was not Seth Techel's that Seth had borrowed, a shotgun, and then disposed of it still in Seth's property, just in the bushes, right over there. Poor Brian Tate never got the apology he so thoroughly deserved. His family maintained that they believe he died of a broken heart, having been labeled a killer after being harassed for months on end. Brian Tate was found dead in his basement on September 30th, 2012. He never lived to see Seth Techel found guilty. Seth Techel was sentenced to life imprisonment and has since exhausted all his options in the appeals process. You could say on one hand, though, Seth really did achieve his dream of being a jailer. It's just now he's surrounded by criminals a hell of a lot more than he ever wanted. Thank you so much for watching. Truly means
the world to me that you have me here, Mike, every week. All right. A few things. What if he didn't do it? I 100% believe he probably did, more than likely. But I'm going to play a little bit of devil's advocate. What if He didn't do it. There's no way in fuck he's that stupid. Especially, you know, knowing a little bit about the law. You know what I mean? Like, what if it was all set up to make him look like he did, to make it look like he did it, and there was no other choice? Like, I get he's guilty 100%, but none of the evidence was damning to me. Does that make sense? Like, it was both cheating on each other. I don't know, man. Like, what if? You know what I mean? That's why I don't like doing like the jury duty shit and stuff like that. I'm not one of those people that want the responsibility of sending an innocent person to prison or letting a guilty person free. Like, I can't. That's not in my life, man. It's not. See, I would be way too worried that what if all these just so happens perfect instances did just happen because he's the shittiest luck person in the world. Like, I'm a person that's got some shitty ass luck, and I have been in the wrong place at the wrong time, the right place at the wrong time, the wrong time at the wrong time, the right place at the right place, and everything in between. Like, it's all there's been some fucked up situations, and I have had to go to court for stuff that I know for a fact I didn't do, and literally have to argue tooth and nail. And sometimes you still get like, oh, you're guilty. It's like, no, I'm not pleading guilty. You're going to have to prove your shit. So, I don't know. See, that one day we're going to be to the point where minority report's a real thing, and we're going to get to see crimes happen. I'm just saying. But either way, I really enjoyed today's video. That was really good. Hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video as much as I did. And if you did, please leave a thumbs up. It really does help the channel grow. While you're down there, if you want, go on over and slap that subscribe button and become part of the B5 Nation. We do some crazy stuff here. If you want to know when that crazy stuff happens, ding that bell and turn on all notifications. As always, be good to one another. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye. Damn, Mike. Like, I'm happy this motherfucker's locked up. Because I firmly believe he did do it. Like, there's just too much that says he did. But here's my thing. There's just as much stuff that says it might not have been him. Man, I can't wait to see what some of y'all think about this story. Please, your thoughts, comments, feelings about any of these videos, always leave in the comments down below. I love talking with y'all. And I know I've been lacking on it, but the way the weather's been, sometimes we have power, sometimes we have internet, sometimes we have neither, sometimes we got both, sometimes it's just one at a time. But I promise, as I can, I do answer them. And I really appreciate each and every single one of y'all taking the time out of your day to leave comments and everything else. I thank you so much. As always, be good to one another. I'll see y'all next time.